that. And suddenly I come here and everything is on me. You know, I can't call dad and say, hey, can you $500 into my bank. I couldn't do that, because suddenly you feel that you get that sense of, oh no, I got to be independent and I got to be in fact supporting my family and myself now. So
what should we call our podcast? We still don't have a name for this podcast, but yeah, this is a new series of podcasts we're trying to do here, which is basically about giving our information or talking on a particular topic or giving our opinion on whatever is there in regards to like students and international students out here in Australia, and maybe specifically in Sydney too. So that's what we're trying to do with this podcast. So I'm Bikesh Shrestha, it's Sahil Dahal. So what shall we talk about? Let's start with like our journey itself, like being an international student. Like you have been here for like a lot longer time than I am. Like you have been here for like 9 years, right?
Yes, this is my 9th year. Yes, that's right.
9. That's long. That's I think that's a really long year to be here. I've just been here like almost 4 years now.
Yeah.
But it seems it passed away really quick actually. Like it just feels like I just came in like yesterday. And it's like already 4 years. But yeah, when you again pull yourself back, I can see a lot of things where like I've done a lot of things out here being here. Like I'm more active now. I'm more involved now compared to back home. What is your journey like?
Yeah, no, I mean, 9 years, right? This is my 9th year actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
long.
It's very long time. I mean, it's been the sine wave. It's pretty much like this up and down sine wave. I can say that, well, I mean, there's a lot of things I could have probably done differently. That's where what I can think of when I retrospectively look at my 8 years of journey. But one essence of what I got in this journey was probably if there were someone who could give me some sort of experience in terms of where I came from, my academic background and whatever skill I possessed at that time. Probably if somebody were able to channelize that in a right direction, or maybe just give me that vision of what the scope could be, maybe I could have done a lot of things differently. But now when I think about, I was thinking about that when we're planning to do this, and I was thinking about that, and then this another thought struck my mind, would have I done things differently? I don't know. Sometimes, because
if only I had done things differently.
Yeah.
So
and it always sounds great in retrospect, right? Because at that point in time, I had another, idea about life probably, I just came out from the university. We were young, wild and free, if you like, quite reckless, and that was apparently cool at that time to be reckless. Well, I mean, a lot of students, I shouldn't say students, but well, when you come out of the university, you're essentially, just being a student, and you have a different outlook towards life, and you've had the best time, in those university days, and would have I done something different? Well, maybe something.
Yeah.
But I can't sit here and say today that, hey, I could have conducted my life in a very disciplined or correct way, in a correct direction, because at that point in time I was probably thinking something else. My vision was very myopic, if you like, very short-sighted, and then slowly, again, eventually, after some events during that timeline, which really immediately, I always give this example, when you are, those in childhood days in your newspaper, you'd get this picture of dotted lines, and when you start to join the dots, and then you get a picture, right? And most of the time I was not able to see that picture. I was probably not joining those dots correctly, I guess. And then some events happened, or some points I reached, and then suddenly I could see something. Hey, okay, I'm doing the same thing, but my vision was probably very, like I said, myopic. I was seeing it from very close distance, and suddenly when I saw it from a little far away, I found it very astonishing that, hey.
How did you reach from there to there? Like,
Well, I mean,
how did you figure out that?
Well, I can't say, what can I say is, well, I came here as a university student and I joined a very big reputed university.
Which one was that?
It was Macquarie University.
Okay.
It is tricky for me. Again, I completed my bachelor's degree in environmental science. So I was, I did some work as well, some volunteer work, some projects, and I was a very hardcore science student. Still.
So was it mostly around like what is environment and how science is involved in that, or how does it look like?
It's a very multidisciplinary subject or very interdisciplinary subject.
Okay.
So it ranges from pollution to climate change to biodiversity to water resources, a lot of avenues. Workplace health and safety, which is very in Australia it's very one of the very popular subjects, if you like. And so that's what my background was. I came here to study masters in environmental planning. For some reason that didn't work out. I opted out of that and I chose something else, a different path. But what I'm trying to say is when I came here, I had that excitement in me,
Yeah, I know.
Because like I said, I was a decent student. I wouldn't say I was very, top academic performer, won awards, nothing like that. But I was decent, good enough, and when I came here, I had the same, sort of excitement, same zeal, if you like, and suddenly that bubble burst in like around a week or so, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It didn't take long, to be honest. I mean, 2 weeks later, suddenly you get into this, it's just like you just join in and you enter that role. There's no time to probably sit down and probably think and try and assess. No time for that.
Too quick.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a place like Sydney, in a city environment.
Because everything is so quick,
Yeah.
rushing in, especially international students. Like you come here and like nobody tells you to sit down, assess your life, and what are your skills, what can you do? And it's like get a job, make those dollars. And I was like, yeah, okay, but let me no time. Go get this resume and go to different pubs and get a job as a bartender, to go to different restaurants and get a job, go to all other places. And suddenly, like I said, it didn't even, I went to Manly Beach once and that was pretty much it. And it's funny, I won't take name, but a friend of mine, we came together and he was working the very next day.
People could do that,
Yeah, because
and that would like pressurize you to again go out and
like,
find
what am I
job.
doing, And so 2 days, and for me it was a couple of weeks. And then once I started working, and everything, it felt like it was one long day which never ended.
Yeah.
It's not because you're on that machine. Like I said, it's so
same cycle.
Yeah, robotic in a sense. So first you see these big buildings, nice roads, beautiful environment, and all of that, and you get fascinated, and suddenly, I mean, so that happened for a good one and a half year, I guess. And again, that really took a toll on me because I couldn't really react to that. One thing that didn't work for me was I didn't have any work experience as such back home. I came out of the university, did a couple of months of volunteering. I really didn't work as an employer. I mean, none of that. And suddenly I come here and everything is on me. I can't call dad and say, hey, can you $500 into my bank. I couldn't do that, because suddenly you feel that you get that sense of, oh no, I got to be independent and I got to be in fact supporting my family and myself now. So yeah, so that happened for a long time, and then one day came where I had to, because I was really getting into that hole, and I believe a lot of people go through that phase in their first couple of years, I believe. And some people in 3-4 months I've seen, breaking down crazy, like because they couldn't handle what
it's hard, like for most of us where we come from, like we haven't done the thing of doing work and doing study at the same time, because I don't know, what was it with you like? Because for me, my parents, I actually studied in the scholarship, so my parents didn't actually pay, but till like let's say class 10, my parents used to pay like everything. And even when I was in Kathmandu and I was studying the scholarship, but all of my living expenses were being paid by my dad and mom.
Exactly. It's funny. In Australia, it's very funny because when I said that to my first colleagues when I started working, I was like, I'm 23. So I was 23 years old when I came in. And I'm 23 years old. And this is the first time I'm getting a paycheck by working. And they were shocked. Like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, that's how it works back home. And people even support their kids for, I don't know, 27, 20 years old, doesn't matter. You go study. I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing because, I don't believe so now when I look back, because when I came in, there was a bunch of my friends who were already working, and when they came in, well, obviously everybody have their own story of their struggle, but they could really adapt to it very quickly, and I couldn't. Because I was like, oh no, I was just victimizing myself. Oh, well, you can't be doing this, So that was the bubble. And when that bubble burst, because I had to, because I was going in that very bad spiral, it could have easily gone into like a very
particular moment that led to that burst.
Well, yes. So conversation again. Okay. So I was holding it to myself, all my insecurities, I can say, I believe. I was holding it to myself. I was not very willing to go out there and talk to people about how I was feeling. I thought, I'd be judged, and because again, like I said, I took pride in whatever academic achievement I had achieved until that point in time. But suddenly I was very much exposed, at least to myself, and I couldn't speak to anybody. And then one day, because I realized that this is a hole I'm getting to, I have to do something. So it was more of a outburst moment. I had to, otherwise I was going into that very deeper part of it. And that conversation, like I said, to one of my friends, and again to my parents as well, I had that big conversation about how am I feeling, and that really, really changed everything for me. Really changed everything for me, because now my insecurities are out on the table, and a couple of people can actually look at me and tell me probably what's going on, and I could get a third person's perspective as well. And so that conversation really, like, suddenly shook me up, if you like, and after that, and obviously I studied something else. I started going out meeting people, and saw this whole, this is a very interesting story I should definitely share here. We used to study in this college in the city, and the Sydney Tower, right? It's very big. It's right, it's 30 meters ahead of our college at that still now. And the friend of mine, suddenly one day we were walking, and he's like, suddenly he saw that tower, and he's like, oh my God. After 1.5 years of studying in that, and he suddenly saw that tall tower.
He hadn't seen
that. He hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
Here, Sydney Tower, and then Market Street. It's very close, right? And suddenly he's like, oh, I haven't seen. And then, that is a very good insight to what life in Sydney or in Australia could do to you, or any other international countries when you travel, basically, and get into this grind, if you like, So that really is a very good example, I could talk about, because that's what happens to us if we really don't take a little back seat and try and assess our life at different points in time. So you
should be looking around, like basically you should be looking around, even with your life too.
Yeah.
look around, what's happening, what is there, you know, instead of just is it this or
Exactly.
working. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people do that, you know, like they're always on the phones, they're not looking around what's happening, everything. And I think that's somehow also gets involved in daily life of yours in the same way, you know, you just focus on the work and study in such a way that you just don't look for anything else, which is actually sad, you know, to see out there, you know, but it's also a grind that everyone must go through, as you said, you know, like it's good. I mean, looking in the retrospective right now, it's like, yeah, it's good. It's good that you went through that or I went through that, because that has taught us a lot of things, you know, that had made us more resilient somehow.
Yes. But again, you know, only if you at one point in time you realize that it's okay to be busy, for example, you know, it's okay to like get into this grind, but at the same time you should be seeing it from a third person's view, you know, at times, because again you're just going with this, you know, what do you call it, the blinkers on, and then you just see few things and you miss out on the picture, and that really would I believe impede your growth, create some friction, because again you won't see that larger picture, and you don't know if you want to try something else, for example, you know, and probably see this entire scene from a very different perspective, and probably guide yourself in a different direction, you know, if you're not happy with what you're doing. So
that is surely one of the things we were talking about, like one of the things someone might have told us, or something that I knew before, like, you know, like 9 years ago, as you were saying, or for me 4 years ago. That is something that I wish someone had told me, like, you know, like, when you're here, this is going to happen. That is normal, that is natural. So this is the way you can actually deal with it, you know. If only someone had told me somewhere, sometime, at least I would have it in the back of the mind, you know. So that's why I always love to talk about anything regarding like mental health issues or like lifestyle culture here, because that somehow, for people who are coming here new, the resources from which they can know like exactly what happens, I think it's very limited out there. You know, like you know what happens with like visa, what is happening like with, you know, like study or policies. There are a lot of news agencies and a lot of podcasts talking about that, but I don't think there are many people who are actually talking about what is happening in the real lives, actual daily lives, you know, what happens exactly. So it's really good to talk about all those things. And one of the things, as I said, it's good that if only someone had told us this before, that look at life from retrospective, from a bigger angle too. You know?
I mean, see that bigger picture, and at least, you know, I can see, well, the camera can't see, but I can see this tree here in front of me, you know.
Yeah, we can show it.
Exactly,
I can take a picture and put it there.
And if you just sit in one of the branches, you'll probably not see the entire picture of the tree.
Yeah,
you know?
true.
I mean, we could put it on the edit actually, the tree's picture. But it's a lovely picture to actually, you know, to take an analogy of what we're talking about, you know. And if you see that larger picture, then probably, hey, I would like to go to the branch of joy and probably explore there sometime, you know. Oh, there is a branch called jealousy as well. Okay, let's see, you know, it looks very wrong, and what happens there? Am I going through that? You know, anger, arrogance, you know, and then suddenly there are good things, honesty, calm, you know. So you see that bigger picture, and then it makes your sense of judgment a little better, and you can probably just start taking risks, you know, doing something different, trying and exploring your own skill sets, and see maybe probably where I can fit. Because if I have 200 options now in front of me, then I can probably fit myself somewhere. You know? Otherwise, you know, and it's very evident that there's a lot of people here we see with so much of talent, and just not being able to utilize those talent in the right direction, to channelize those. And obviously this thing really helps if there were someone, that's what we're talking about, right? If there was someone at the very beginning who could have, you know, instead of telling me that, hey, this is what it is, you got to deal with it, dude. You're not someone very special. All of us are, you know, here doing the same thing. You got to do the same thing. It's the same grind. There's no, you know, utopian world which you are thinking of. There's no such things, you know. And especially when we come from other countries, we already have that sense of, you know, a very what can I say? What's the word? Very low. We're low on confidence. You know, we're very much. We're pretty much thinking that, hey, we are not at the top of the food chain probably. So we should
absolutely, and that is true. That is the reality when you come in here. It's completely natural to feel that way.
Yeah. And at that point in time, when someone fuels that negative thought, then you really carry that for a long time, and then until, like I said, that bubble burst moment comes in, and you're like suddenly, hey, no. And then it will keep on coming. Now I'm talking about this 9 years later, or eight and a half years later. Again, I could be living in some sort of bubble today as well, and then 9 years later with so much of experience, it'll be something very, very different, I would believe, my thought and my ideas and stuff like that. So, yeah.
It's different, but what would be something else that someone might have told you? Like, what is something that you wish someone might have told you?
Well,
before?
I mean, at least someone, what I now again, retrospectively, I'm talking about at that point in time, if someone could have at least told me that, hey, there are some examples as well, there are these people as well who have come from, the same place with same amount of whatever, and then they've worked here, they have done these things, or probably, you don't even want the details, but there is a scope for you. At least you can try, If somebody could have just given me a bigger picture at that point in time, I believe, well, I reached different reckoning points after I think 1.5 years, 2 years was one point, and then after another 1.5 year, there's another point which again made me a different person, and then again I think 3-4 years ago another point, such point came in, and that struggle in that between that struggle period in between those could have been probably shorter. But again, at the same time, it's a very conflicting thing to say also, because
you never know.
Because there's no blueprint as such in life. Essentially, if someone could have at least given me a broader picture of what could happen at that point in time, and it came later on. It came from friends actually at the very beginning.
Yeah, friends. That's what I was going to say. Like, one of the things I wish someone would have told me would have been, be careful who you become friends with, be careful who you live with.
Yes.
Because that will determine where your future is gonna go. Yeah. That's a good call. Who's that?
That's a segue.
So, as you were talking about like friends, I wish someone would have told me beforehand when I came in here that be careful like who you become friends with, be careful who you live with, who you surround yourself with. Because looking back at where we come from, like we had friends which were like friends from very childhood, like we had like school friends, we had friends from like, like our place. At least there were people, there were friends, and you come here, it's like, for someone who's lucky, they might have a lot of friends out here, but for others, it's like, you don't have much people out here, and you are starting again, everything. So you should be careful about who you're hanging out with, because for me, I was able to realize that at the very beginning, because the place where I lived here for the first like 6 months or whatever, there were people who were there who had that mentality that you can't like study and work together. You'll have to either leave study or work. You can't leave work, so you're going to leave your studies because you did money and this and that and everything. But I realized during that time that I was my capacity according to my capability. I knew that, and I knew that I could do that. Just because you can't do that doesn't mean I can't do that. So I had that realization, but most people might not have that because again, we come from a place where we are grown up in the community, so we need that. It's very hard for us to stay alone, stay lonely, which is also not a good idea, in a sense that I actually got this from one of the ABC in my other podcast, which was basically like, when homesickness is coupled with loneliness, that's a very bad recipe to have. It is. So you need to be around people. We need friends. We need people, but also be careful what kind of people you're hanging out with. If you have like big aspirations, if you want to do something big, and if there is someone who is in your friend circle who can't do it themselves, neither would like help or promote or actually like say, who's just going to pull your leg instead of trying to like help you to grow bigger, since they can't do so. If you are around that kind of people, be very careful.
Well, I mean, you could also say, it's not always, you know, whenever you're getting those sort of feedback or suggestions, the intent will not always be ill, because
True. That's
at times, you know, they will tell you the best they know, right? But the best they know could not be good enough for you, because you'll be completely different person from completely different background with completely different aspirations, you know, and all of those things. So, is it an important call?
It's Colin actually.
Oh, okay. You can call him.
30 minutes from now, I'll be sending you a link. Yeah, that should be alright.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what I was saying was, you know, it's not always, because I've been very lucky in that sense. You know, when the first bunch of us came in, I lived with, you know, the people I lived with, very supportive. In comparison of all of my other friends, I was very lucky in that way. And when I eventually lived with my friends, I saw the world differently, I can say, you know, because I was, you know, we had similar struggles, similar stories. We went out, we were trying to learn from the same, you know, at the same level, if you like, you know. When we meet people, we would interact in a more similar way, because again, so that really helped. But having said that, my first 1.5 years was very good in terms of what I got in regards to the first settling down in Australia. But coming back to the larger point is, again, you know, like I said, if you that friend didn't see that tower for 1.5 years, I saw it, and then other person couldn't have seen it for 6 months, for example. So if we paint a picture of where we walk, probably our you know, vision, then in the same city we will be living in a little niche, you know, if you like.
True.
And until and unless it somewhere it connects, or you know, we could two people could come together and see those two worlds, and then 3 worlds and 4, 5, and then you'll see the entire picture. And again, not blaming anybody. There's no point in blaming, because again, you know, you can't always victimize yourself and blame everything on other people. But again, like I said, even while you were in that low confidence phase, if only somebody could have given you that hope. And well, I mean, it did come from few person, and it did come from few events, for example, for me, you know, and that really changed how I saw this entire scene, and I think that is really important. When for example, if a new person comes into Australia, and then the first say counseling phase, or you know, when that person is slowly starting to make connection, I think whoever has lived here for a good amount of time, I think those people should be able to give them that hope. Those examples of achievements from the people from the same community or same background, stuff like that. And eventually that background thing becomes blur if your skill can take over, you know, if you are very skilled, and we all know that, well, I mean, discrimination will happen, still will happen, but I believe now where the world is moving, you know, I think that differences between different, you know, people from different background is very much blurred. People don't really care. New generation don't really care that much about those things, and I believe you have equal chance if you have the skill and the zeal to work and to become better version of yourself. I think everybody can be successful, or everybody can. I mean, success is also very, you know, it's a very relative term.
Depends upon people. But there are opportunities basically.
Yes.
For everyone, for everything out here.
At least you can explore, is what I'm saying. At least you can know your options. You try, if it doesn't work, come back. But you know that there are, you know, ways where you can probably, you know, become a better version of yourself. So yeah, so that is pretty much what I wanted to talk about when I was talking about that vision, that view, that bird eye view of this entire scene. And when you see that, it makes your life much much easier in terms of making decisions, if you like, you know, for what you want to do, because you know the options. So yeah.
Cool. So I think that should be it for today. Let's make it short.
Yeah.
And we'll come up with some different topic next time.
Yeah.
Let us know, guys, if you have any topics in mind that you would like us to talk about. Let us know and we can talk about that. But yeah, this is fun.
It's fun, man.
Yeah.
For the first time, well done, Vikesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone,
Take
for
care,
listening.
everybody.
Take care.
Bye.